All right, a happy Friday edition of the Pat's Interference Podcast. We have a special guest. I didn't know when this was going to happen. I've been crossing my fingers every day and night since the season ended that we might see this smiling face, the media good guy from the Patriots beat. You know him as the elder statesman of the Patriots secondary, Jonathan Jones, live from Charlotte here. Not live, I suppose, because we're recording. Talk about the season, what's been going on. Let me start with this, though. John, the season ended like 10, 11 days ago. Give me the best thing you've done since then and the most boring.
Oh, the best thing, man, my daughter, she had her first gymnastics meet. She won the best all around, won a couple, of the individual awards. So it was a good little weekend to see her, support her. So that's definitely probably been the best thing. The most boring thing has probably been the most relaxing things to sit down and watch some TV. My wife been begging me to watch the Squid Game, so we've been kind of catching up on that.
Wait, so season 1 or season 2?
Season 2, starting that. Got to get in a couple episodes, so we're locked into that right now.
Nice. So this is a classic show where, she watched without me and would have watched with me, but I had said, no, go ahead. And then you hear it from somebody else, and they're like, oh, my God, you got to get it. And then you come back to her, and you're like, we got to watch Squid Game. She's like, oh, okay, so the recommendation's good enough when it comes from them, not for me. So
that's how it goes.
Maybe I'll catch up to you. Well, that sounds good. So we're just going to talk about the last 10, 11 days because, aside from what you've been up to, the Patriots have obviously been very busy and some good, some bad, some, we'll kind of see here. And that's life in the league. So let me toss it to you, though, first, like way open-ended question about maybe just the last 12 months. And we'll move ahead here. Is there anything when the media comes and talks to you or you've heard elsewhere just about the season, what happened the last 12 months? It could be Jerod specific. It could be the team. It could be certain game, whatever, that just went a little under discussed. This thing you would like fans to know before everyone finally turns the page to 2025.
Just like I said, it was a lot of moving pieces, and just coming off of 2024, just the season that we had a lot of unanswered questions from the previous year going into the year. And so, I wouldn't say there's a lot to really unpack. I think, at the end of the day, I always say in our business, the record is your results. And, you come in and you try to do the best that you can. And I think we all kind of went out there trying to do that, and we weren't able to accomplish that, and which kind of led us to the feelings that we had at the end of the year. So, just looking back on it, there were so many moving pieces and trying to get a lot of things together that, in 2020, in hindsight, you can always look back and say, well, hey, it didn't work out. But in the midst of the things, I think everybody felt like we were trying to do the right things.
I felt for a second there you were going back to the Cam Newton year. You were like, oh, in 2020, we did this. I was like, man, you guys don't talk about the past period, let alone go back 4 years. But no, hindsight is 2020. Yeah. It is funny because I think you talk about the record being the results. It was the same record he had in 2023. And a lot of people would say with a rookie first-year coach, first-year defensive coordinator, new offensive system, et cetera, the results would reflect that. Obviously, the Crafts disagree. They move on. Any just your instant reaction of what it was like that day when you found out Jerod had gotten fired and kind of what was next for you, understanding your future's uncertain because you're a free agent as well.
Oh, yeah. Anytime – that whether it's a teammate, coach, or somebody that either gets let go, fired, released, especially you put in a lot of time with them, there's always that feeling of, remorse for them, and you're feeling for them. And you're always pulling for everybody that you're kind of associated with it to win. But just understanding the business of the NFL, I think we all earned, what we got last year. And there's no one to point fingers at as an individual. The tough part about being the captain of the ship, is you take the initial fall. And I think that's what happened with Mayo. You're the leader, you're at the top. And so everything kind of, starts and finishes with you. And so I think that was where the change came from, from the Kraft family and moving forward.
So best you can without breaking any kind of confidences. I'd imagine there are a few group chats, DB group chats, maybe just a couple of guys you're in with, or just talking with guys around the team. What's just the sentiment? Is it more shock, sorrow, this is the business, or I saw this coming? What's kind of been the general reaction since that happened?
I think I would say a little bit of all. I mean, everybody kind of views it their own way, and so you have a little bit of people who shocked, some of them who say, "Hey, I kind of expected that," and just a little bit of everything, in between. And so it's just one of those things where you try to tell guys, like I said, it is the business. That is what this league is, and it's what it always will be. And so just try to tell guys to do what the best you can do for yourself individually moving forward. And for the guys who are on the contract, is getting in shape, getting ready for next year, and when they get an opportunity to meet the new coaches, being able to meet their demands and what their expectations are, and for the guys who aren't, just try to figure out what's next.
So I mentioned it, then you just did. Some guys are free agents. You're at the top of the list. I don't care who's making the list. You're number one on guys that are should be a priority. Or look at the resume. There you are. Does Mike Vrabel's arrival change what you want to do? I know you'd like to remain in New England. However that might change the calculus, does it?
No. He is a New England Patriot, and so even getting to watch some of his press conference, it's the vision is what you want to hear. It's those it's everything that New England needs. And so if I do get the opportunity to sign back and we're able to make that work, I think it's an awesome vision, and it'll be every guy in that building's job and responsibility to kind of get behind that vision and move it forward.
Did you have any favorite questions from that press conference?
There was some good ones. But no, I mean, just his answers. I mean, you can tell just the person that he is. Like I said, I've never really gotten to spend a lot of time around him. We did a joint practice with him, a few years back, and I'd say that's about the most I've been on the football field with him. But just his presence, the way that the guys in Tennessee respected him, talking to a few guys, and then at the same time, how he was respected in New England, his time being here. And so he has every leadership quality that you want in a head coach and in a leader. And so, like I said, every guy in that building, it's their job to rally behind that vision and execute.
So I didn't know you had watched the press conference before we hopped on here and obviously talked before you jumped on the podcast. I'm curious. There's a lot of things that are said in the same head coaching introductory press conference, right? Tough, smart, or a balance on offense, aggressive on defense, yada, yada. Aside from that, what stood out to you personally listening to Mike Vrabel about what he said?
I don't know more so about what he said. I think it's just, like I said, his temperament. I mean, when you see a person, just his stature, just how he is in a room and how he carries himself and how people are receptive to that. I think that's a big key to the National Football League is when you're sitting up in front of, 53 guys that you're leading, and it's how do they see you? What are the trust that they have in you? And that goes a long way.
Yeah. All right. You mentioned Mike Vrabel and the joint practices. Those were in 2019. You had played against them in 2018. And then, of course, Tom's last game in that 2019 season is January, the wild card playoff game. You saw them again in 21. Like you've gone head to head against Mike Vrabel teams now, I think at least 3 times.
Yeah.
What do you remember? Granted, he had different offensive coordinators, but about the general scouting report. Like take us in the team meeting room when Bill was breaking down his old player, new opposition, who beat him the first 2 times head to head, by the way, of what Mike Vrabel teams looked like and felt like to play against.
Yeah, I mean, to bring it back even to something he said in his press conference, it's like as a coach, one of the greatest compliments you can get is from other coaches is saying like, hey, look how tough your team is playing. And that's what you realize. You go out there and it's whether it's joint practice. I mean, those are some of the most physical joint practices that we've had. And you understand why. It's because of the demand that he has, as a coach. And so when we were playing those teams, we knew, this is a physical football team. This is a tough football team. And you better bring your hard hat because, they're going to bring theirs. And so, every time, we played against those guys, they were going to be tough, well coached, execute their game plan, and you were going to have to outcompete them.
So he's talked a lot about like run pass balance in different kind of ways. Granted, when you have Derrick Henry, you want to give the ball to Derrick Henry, but like what do you feel like you have any kind of sense about what the offense he might want to bring in? And we know old pal Josh McDaniels is kind of the mix. As someone who's studied, broken down, and understood how his Titans teams wanted to play offense in those years.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to one, his personality and his vision. I mean, when you can run the ball, you're basically telling another team that I'm going to hand this off and run over you, run through you. I'm not running around you. I'm not throwing it over you. I'm taking my line and pushing your defensive line and your linebackers back, and we're gaining yards. And so I think that's just a mentality. It starts there. And so when you tell somebody, hey, I'm going to run the ball, you're telling your old lineman to just move people out of the way, and you're running back to put his nose in the fire and run through it. And so that's the start of a mentality for a team.
So this might be putting you in a bad spot, but I mentioned Josh McDaniels. Would you like to see him be the offensive coordinator? Do you have any pick to be an offensive coordinator? If they called you up and say, John, we need you to pick. We can't decide. You're going to be the deciding vote, him or any other name that kind of comes to mind.
No, I don't think I could speak to that, but no, just being around Josh and coming into this league, even on scout team as a young player and going against Josh, and you see how meticulous he is about how he wants everything and just the detail that he has as an offensive coordinator. And so, the respect that he has from one of the guys like Tom. And so when you, as a coordinator, when you have respect from a guy like that, you know you're a heck of a coach. And like I said, just lining up across from him on scout team, you know, in some of my younger years, you understand just how involved and how good of a coach he is.
So it's interesting you say that, because again, these are things that even as someone who's covered the team now for 7 years, goes to every training camp practice and is watching that, you know, I could guess he's meticulous, but like you're on the field, you see it. What's an example of something that, you know, maybe the play is we're going to run outside zone. And he's like, no. Like the footwork here from the left guard who needs to make a reach block, that was off and you need to grab something. Like that level of detail. Can you give us an example when it hit you, Josh is this level of meticulous?
Yeah, it's really more so from like the scout team of how he wanted to present the look. And, you know,
Okay.
I'll be on scout team trying to do something, just play around or something. And he's yelling, no, this guy's going to be right. And just his understanding of, you know, watching and exactly of trying to create a good look for their offense. And, you know, sometimes he'd be worried about a receiver split away from the ball that had nothing to do with it, but he just wanted it perfect. He wanted it how, you know, he wanted it. And I think that just goes back to some of the guys coaches that he had an opportunity to learn from, like Coach Scar and those guys who, you know, details are everything. And see, when you come in the league under guys like that, you just do nothing but become a better coach. And I think he would, you know, contribute a lot of his success to guys like that.
See, your mistake, John, was being born too late. Because had you been on the scout team defense when Troy Polamalu was still playing and your team was preparing for the Steelers, you could have done whatever the hell you wanted. You could have lined up over the slot. You could have gone back to single high. You could have been on the sideline and just zoomed across at the snap to obviously pick the ball off or get a sack, whatever you wanted to do. That was your only mistake, I would say. I'd say you're probably wrong, but depends on the
that would have been fun.
yeah. Not too many guys like that. Ed Reed, but I'm sure you've heard enough about Ed Reed just from being around Bill all those years. So, you know, aside from Josh, the next question is, how does Mike Vrabel build out his staff? And I said on previous episodes, you know, I think guys that you know better than pretty much anybody else, Mike Pellegrino, Brian Belichick, the other side of the ball, Tyler Hughes, because he crossed over with Vrabel about a decade ago at Ohio State, would be my top candidates probably to return. But again, I don't know them as well as you do. So whether, you know, a guy like Coach Pellegrino, who I think resume speaks for itself with you, Stephon Gilmore, JC Jackson, or whomever, you know, forget what bald run-of-the-mill media guy has to say. Like, tell us a little bit about what Mike and later Brian brought to your room as a guy who was in that job for 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, and to connect it again to something that Vrabel said, you know, in his press conference is what he wants from his position coaches, and that's to get to know your players. And to start there, you know, position coaches are professional reminders. You know, they're not, their job is to make sure that their guys are as prepared as they can be and whatever that is. And so just knowing what Mike and Brian have done over the past years to make sure guys are prepared. He takes an individual approach to each guy. You know, he really gets an opportunity to understand, you know, what makes a guy tick. You know, what does a guy need from him? He does his best job as a coach to provide that. And so position coaching in the league, that's your job, is to find a way to get the best out of your guys. And that starts with a relationship. And he does a great job of building that trust and building relationships with, you know, every guy that steps, you know, into that room. And so and getting the best out of them, no matter the circumstances, the situation that it is. That's what you're looking for in a position coach. And, he has a PhD, in cornerback play from,
Wow.
learning from Bill. I mean, just because, he started from the bottom, and he had to learn the game from, every blade of grass, I say. Just breaking down film, being being at the bottom of the totem pole for so long, and working his way up. Mike has done it all. He's seen it all, from every aspect. And so that's what makes, him a good position coach, and the same with Brian.
You know what? It's sad. Football season, pretty much over. But you can still play and win with a new game. Prize Picks, the best place to get real money sports action anywhere. And I'm talking up to, get this, 1,000 times your cash. You heard me say this during Pickmas, everybody's favorite holiday. Not Christmas, not Hanukkah, not Kwanzaa, not even New Year's. Pickmas was the best because when you build a lineup of 2 to 6 players and you pick more or you pick less, as you always do at Prize Picks, Pickmas is not over. So go to Prize Picks right now, where everyone can have fun with daily fantasy sports. It's the most accessible. It's the simplest app out there. All you have to do, pick 2 to 6 players. Each comes with a stat. You look at their next game, you think they'll get more or you think you'll get less, lock it in, and there it is. You can have a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash by picking as few as 2 players. I do this. Right now, we're in the doldrums of the NBA season. I watch the Celtics, pull up Prize Picks, make my picks, have a little fun on the couch, even though it's a Tuesday in the dead of winter. You can do this too. You can do this with Venmo, by the way. New feature, one of my favorites. And this is the best part, where I can't do this anymore because I've been playing Prize Picks for months. If you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, 50 for just $5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So whether you think the Ravens are going to go far in the playoffs and Lamar Jackson might have more than 250 passing yards, or Josh Allen's going to have over 2.5 passing touchdowns, you can pick more, you can pick less, and you can win, but only at Prize Picks. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. So let me ask you this, because I've never asked him this in person. He's got like a lacrosse background, comes in, Bill hires him, clearly a hardworking guy. But by the time he got to be your position coach, you're a 4th-year veteran. You've won 2 Super Bowls. You play nickel, you play outside corner, you played safety in that last Super Bowl. Like, what's a tangible example of how he helped you? Because on the outside, it's hard to know that, understanding what your resume is and a new guy just kind of coming in, like any, at that time, rookie position coach.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give him credit in the sense of most people aren't humble enough to say, I don't know what I don't know. And so when he first started out, he was learning. He was learning from guys like Gilmore, Jason McCourty, who had just came, who'd been there for a while. And so he got to see guys be veterans and succeed in this league at a high level. And he took a lot of those things and just watched. And he watched guys and saw how they maneuvered and saw, what you could do extra. And so I remember, like I said, him just coming to me and saying, hey, I like how you might do this step in the slot, but what about this? And knowing that he's watched and he's learned, you hear a guy like that out, you say, oh, okay, because he's not just, throwing out his opinion, based off of nothingness. He actually is a student of the game. He watches the game, watches film, I'd say probably more than anybody in the building, just because that's just how meticulous he is as a coach.
Is that real? More than anybody in the building? Like, that's what all of you love to brag about inside that building, and you're saying he's at the top of the power rankings.
Like, Mike, man, I don't... not even get too personal, man. I got to meet Mike's dad, and sometimes when you meet a guy's dad, you're like, oh, I see. Like and the light goes off of like, oh, I see why you are the way you are because of your dad. And he comes from hardworking blue collar. His father's a hardworking blue collar guy. So Mike is the same way. He's the wants to be in there. He'll sleep at the facility if he has to. He's that type of coach that no matter what it is, if he's running off 12 coffees, he's still going to get the job done. And so just that personality, man.
All right. A tip for him. 12 coffees. We can be more efficient with that. This would be my advice. We can use Red Bulls. All right. You're just going to the bathroom too much. That's a lot of liquid. We can condense the caffeine into a single can or 2 and keep our man rolling with all that film room. Because it sounds like there probably was just a urinal attached to the wall if that's how much coffee he was having.
I know, right? I know. Yeah. But no, he's just like a hardworking guy. Okay. And that's what every guy in that building will respect about Mike.
Yeah. Brian, then real quick, because I've done a story where I went down and watched him speak at a coach's clinic, and this was a few years ago, and that's a small snapshot, but it's not snapshot. If I could speak English for a second, but I know how guys like Duggar, even going back to Devin, like had a lot of respect for him. When you guys years ago combined the DBs room, where you guys were all getting that coaching together, what did you kind of learn about him? I suppose a little bit, if he's back, or if this is goodbye from New England to Brian Belichick.
I mean, I guess I can go to the easy answer. It's kind of like Mike, go look at his dad. But no, he grew up around football and kind of grew up around New England football, and that's kind of that's what everybody has modeled their program after in some shape or form over the last 20 years. That's been the blueprint for a lot of guys. Like Vrabel said, those banners, aren't going to help you in, but those are blueprints. And so Brian had a back office experience and seeing the blueprint of a lot of those, championships being made. And so it's just his knowledge of the game and just how he wants to make a name for himself in this league. And you can see it again in just how hardworking he is as a coach.
All right. So let's say after the coaches call you about the offensive coordinator, they're like, "Hey, John, okay, I know you couldn't put in the vote that's smart. You gave a smart media good guy answer publicly, but we need you to make a call here. What do we need to do next? Like, the roster, the coaching staff, the way you guys want to play, the way that you guys actually have played, a couple items on the to-do list for this team in the offseason, aside from re-sign yourself. What would you tell Mike Vrabel on the phone?
Oh, man. I mean, the simple answer is just get some good players in and let's get out there and play ball and, make each other better, and practice. Like, there's nothing, more important than getting out on the field. And
all right, John, this is a press conference answer. We're on a podcast. I need safe John. I need cliche John. I think you're right. You need good players. Can you name one or two or a position or let's get more specific here?
Just starting up front, man.
Okay, all right.
If everybody, I think, at this point, our answers are in the public. I mean, we were what
not 3? Shy, yeah.
Yeah, we were terrible last year, and there's not there weren't a lot of bright spots if we're just being honest. So it's going to be a lot of filling in and getting good players in the building. That's the first thing, honestly, is getting a lot of good players in the building because there just weren't at times a lot of guys out there that you just say, hey, this guy's going to dominate the guy, in front of him. And so when that happens, you're depending on a lot of out coaching people and out scheming people. And that's the National Football League. You're not going to do that. At some point, you just have to go through another individual. And so it's got to start with getting good football players up front, offensive line, defensive line. Just that's where the game's won and lost. Everybody, obviously the media wants to hype on, receivers and their skill players, which are important. Like, I get it. I haven't seen a quarterback throw. You can have the greatest receivers out there. If the quarterback's on his back, he's never completing a pass. And so you have to protect him and vice versa. As a DB, I don't care, how great you are at covering. If the defensive line aren't getting any pass rush, your guy's going to get open. I mean, that's just what football is. And, we have to start there. I think that's what the program needs to be built off of.
There it is. Offseason John is here. In season John, probably still collecting an award from us here in the media.
Yeah,
I appreciate the honesty because you know what? You said our needs are kind of in the public. What we need. It's all on the film. So I'm not trying to goad you into saying anything. I just want to be more specific from someone who has all of the specifics. Honestly, you don't have to agree with this or comment on it at all. Vince Wilfork was asked about Tom's broadcasting for Fox. And to me, it's been disappointing Vince agreed because my feeling was that's the guy who has proclaimed, I have all the answers to the test. And he does. And it's resulted in 7 Super Bowl rings. So I want the intricacies of this 2-trap coverage. And this is how he sniffed it out. And that's what the play was supposed to be in this option route. Tom, tell me. So when
but it's tough to do that. And I think a lot of people get that. So
okay.
That's why I don't listen to commentators. Because I don't, I don't care who it is, whether it's Tom or anybody, because unless you were in that meeting, that position meeting, it starts in a position meeting on Wednesday. Unless you were in that meeting and the coach might have said, hey, when they come up in here, you do this. I don't care what you're supposed to do. You do this. And you run out there on the field on Sunday and you line up and you do exactly what your position coach told you to do. And then at the end of the play, they're holding up their hands saying touchdown. Nobody in the build, nobody, not a commentator, not a person in the stands. No one can tell you what your coach what the conversation you have between you and your coaches. And that's why when people say, we'll keep that internally, because at some point you're just going to go out into the media and say, well, hey, my coach told me to do this. And then he's going to say, no, I didn't tell that player to do that. And you're going to get into a back and forth. But commentating is hard to say exactly what a play is supposed to be. You can put it in a category, of, hey, this is traditionally what a zone run is like. But I don't know, the coach might have said, hey, they line up their guy a little bit more shaded this week. We're going to scoop him instead of there's so many different variants. And that's where the coaching comes in, is like, this is what we want to do this week. This is our game plan. And then how well do you execute that game plan? And so it's hard to sit back as a commentator and it hates it, especially as a DB. Like it's you can talk to any DB in the league and they're being honest with you. I hate it when they come and say, oh, this guy was supposed to be right here. And as a guy who's been in the league for 9 years, I can look at the film like, I don't know, maybe it kind of, we say, well, this kind of looks like this. We don't know what they're running. It kind of looks like cover 4. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. You know what I mean? That's what you get into. So that's why it's kind of hard to commentate. Like I wouldn't want that job because like
so you're also a big fan of PFF is what I'm gathering.
Hell no. No shot. No shot. It's just tough.
Okay, so I know most of you still remember. It's only been about 5 years. The Patriots playing playoff football, the best of the best going head-to-head. That's what January and February is all about. Now, I don't know when the Patriots will be back, but I know if you want to make lifetime memories, whether it's the NFL playoffs or later on this year, the NBA playoffs or the NHL playoffs, or you want to even go to a March Madness game, there's only one place to go. It's Game Time, the best secondary ticket marketplace you will find for one simple reason. They have a lowest price guarantee. And I use this, have you heard me tell you before, to make lifetime memories with my wife out in London. Went to the game with one of my best friends. Granted, he was a Jags fan. Nothing you could do about that. But the point is, I went to Game Time because they gave me that lowest price guarantee. Plus, as I was picking out tickets for them, they gave me a seat view right there, what it was like to be in Wembley Stadium. And you could do this even if you want to go to the Super Bowl. Find that exact seat. What's your view? Compare it to another one, but only at Game Time, where you get not only the seat view and the lowest price guarantee, but Game Time picks, where they give you all the best deals right up front, all in pricing. You don't even have to go searching for all these different deals. It's just the best of the best right there. You can find your tickets and go to the Super Bowl or any other event in less than 60 seconds. So what are you waiting for? Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase in these lifetime memories. Terms do apply. Again, just create an account. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, the best tickets, the lowest price guaranteed tickets to any game, concert, show, playoff, or regular season. Guaranteed. What time is it? Game Time.
This is a super niche question. And Devin McCourty's been on here before and talked to him for a story. Actually, I talked to you about where before your last Super Bowl, you guys are playing that quarters coverage, yada, yada. This is just a question for me. We'll get 2 more and we'll get you out of here for everybody else. Why did Bill always hate playing quarters? Like cover 4, it was something that he just never did. It's not a part of your system. I know you guys would dabble if you needed to. You did it in the Super Bowl. That's love enough for that scheme. But it's just so funny to me that as a coach who is the most malleable ever, just had this one coverage. He's just like, nope, not doing it.
Okay. I can't speak for Bill, but for me, I'd say I kind of have the same sentiments. It takes away nothing. You're not going when you go out there. When you go out there and cover 4, you're not saying, hey, you're not doing this. With cover 2, you're saying you're not taking deep shots. We're taking this away. We're giving you this. Cover 4 doesn't really take anything away. You're playing a half-assed man coverage. So if you want to lock up and go man-to-man, you might as well just do that. Or if you want to, discourage shots, you might as well go cover 2. And so it's just one of those coverages that I don't like to major in. If I was the defensive coordinator, I mean, you could sprinkle it in here and there. It's kind of a good coverage to sprinkle in, but it's just not. You're not doing anything, in my opinion. You're not taking away a deep shot. You're not getting tight man-to-man coverage. So it's, what are we really doing in cover 4?
Yeah. There are a lot of different variations too. I'll say this before we get the high school coaches jumping down my throat via the YouTube comments or on Twitter. There are a lot of different versions of quarters, and you can man match, you can zone match, like all those different things. But it always just struck me as like, what did cover 4 ever do to Bill? I want to know what happened. But I think your answer makes sense. Like if you're playing that soft, pure spot drop, which we've lost about 100 people by now, I'm sure. Like you're saying, there's not a lot you're taking away. It's just kind of a soft sit back coverage. All right. Which is funny, by the way, because I don't know if you watched any Vikings film. Flo is kind of majoring in it now, in addition to these weird like 6-man pressures with his 5-man drop. Have you watched any Vikings?
Yeah, so a lot of the cover 2 can turn into cover 4 in the system. So like you might call it 2, and then the safeties can adjust it to turn it to 4. We're there again. It's one of those covers. Just you definitely need some good safeties and very smart safeties, because everything
Versatile,
very very versatile, and so you want some safety that can cover also and fit the run, and in my opinion, I'm just not a big fan of cover 4. I'd rather you just tell me either we're in man, or we're just in cover 2 and we're taking away the shots. Or just leave me in man-to-man coverage. That's, I've never really been a big fan of cover 4.
Half-ass man coverage. That's going to stay with me for a while. All right. I said we got 2 more. Here they come. 8 teams left as we record here Friday morning.
Yeah.
And off the top of my head, you got Texans, Chiefs coming up. We've got Commanders, Lions. Then on Sunday, Rams, Eagles. And, of course, the big one, Bills, Ravens.
Yeah.
Pick a game or a team, just your thoughts this weekend, and then a Super Bowl pick 3 weeks from now.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to not start with the Ravens.
Okay.
It's just they do what you need to do well at this time of the year, and they run the ball. And so when a team can run the ball like that, everything else kind of falls into place. You have in my opinion, the MVP of the league, at quarterback. And they're coming together on defense. That always kind of been, a question mark for them, or I wouldn't say a question mark. They have a lot of talent on defense. They just be hit or miss some weeks. And they're coming together playing good defense right now. So they're the top team, in my opinion, right now to go for. I like, Washington. They're a young team. They're fun to watch because, obviously Scary Terry, he's a big name guy, but they don't have a lot of quote unquote superstars. They just have a lot of young guys who go out there, run around and make plays. And so it's exciting to see, and then have some, good players on defense, and they find a way to win games. Like I said, their last few games have come down, to the last possession. And so when you have a team who are comfortable, playing in those type of games, knowing that that's what the playoff is. And, that's kind of where they've lived, these last few weeks. It'll be exciting to watch.
Super Bowl pick. This is 1B. This is not the final question, but we got to get you down on something. Are you going to go Ravens, pick. Commanders, or what do you like?
Yeah. Either Ravens, Commanders, Ravens, Lions. I like the Lions. I like just their culture. It kind of reminds me of what Braves is going to bring to New England, just the culture that they have of just being dogs. The whole team is just full of dogs and guys who, you want to bring to a fight anytime you win. And that's what, I kind of get from the outside looking in on their team. And so the Lions are definitely a good team as well. And, even the Rams, the Rams are playing really, really good right now. McVay is a heck of a coach. They're playing very well. Banged up obviously early in the year, but they're on a run right now and playing some great ball.
This is the trouble when I ask you follow-ups, because I just want to keep going and talk about that Rams game you had. What makes McVay good? And you're watching the Lions, et cetera, et cetera. We were going to stay on track, which I'm not famous for here on my own show.
Yeah.
The last question for you is this: is fans, media, Patriots study what's going to happen next? Coaching staff, free agency, the draft. Obviously, you are going to be concerned with yourself first and foremost, as you should be. You don't know where you're going to work next year, how you're going to provide for your family. But from a broader perspective about the team, how are you following the offseason? Like, what are the most important things you'll be watching, and how will you be following along, hoping this happens, hoping that doesn't? What does that look like for you as you join us for the next few months looking at your team?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, obviously just the staff, once they build out the staff, coordinators, position coaches, and seeing, what that looks like. And then like early free agency, who are the guys that, New England's going to target to get this thing around? Because from the looks of it, if we're looking to win now and not be patient and not be patient, it's hard to say we'll build through the draft, because that, you're not going to, I don't care who you draft, you're not going to draft enough guys and good enough guys to come out and say we're going to turn the whole season around next year. So free agency will be a big part of it. And then, like I said, obviously the coaching staff and what they bring to it.
So you mentioned the Ravens, and I'm breaking more rules, but Ronnie Stanley is a free agent. He plays offensive line, a position that you named. Would you like any kind of recruiting pitch? Would you like to run away at this point? Like T. Higgins is the one we all bring up. I'm on the Ronnie Stanley train, and I am the conductor of this train to get him to New England if I'm the Patriots trying to make that happen.
Yeah, like football starts up front. And, I'd rather give this analogy, I'd rather be throwing to, I don't know, grab a guy off the street in the parking lot at receiver with a great offensive line as opposed to having, a guy off the street on offensive line with an all-world wide receiver, if I give that analogy. So, yeah, football starts up front. So we got to get some guys up front.
Brings me an idea for next year's media game, which we play for the first time in 7 years. Maybe we get your old lineman, and then we'll put us at corner and or us at receiver and see how long it takes me to get away from you, which will be an eternity, but it's going to put your theory to the test as opposed to media on media.
If they can protect, hey, you'll feel better about that.
I'll have something. John Jones, you're the best. Thank you for coming on, sharing your insight about what happened, what's happening now, what could happen next. Is there anything that people should watch for you? You got an Instagram or Twitter, anything you want to promote? We usually do this for media folks, but
no, I'm not a media guy. You know that. I'm the good guy, but not a media guy. But social media's out there. I think it's Just J Jones. I need to start posting more. I think that could be a New Year's resolution. It's not too late to put in a New Year's resolution of posting more. I get caught up in doing everything else, but that's about it, man. It's hopefully New England can get back turned around and back winning. Like I always say, football is better when New England's good.
Yeah. Well, look, you're busy. You're going to gymnastics meets. You're flying planes. You're watching Squid Game. If there's anything I can do, always holler. Appreciate your time, man. We'll chat down the road. All right.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.